Now, after what happened at Lord's with the batsman getting out to the moving ball, Nasser had some thoughts as to how they might do it differently, but that was pretty high-end stuff, and it's not all about the elite of the game in cricket. Now, as this is the Sky Sports Living for Sport test match, we thought if there was any kids watching, we might be able to help you with some of the basics of batting. So, Nasser, where do you stand when you come out to face a bowler?
Well, first things first, I think you should take a guard. I see a lot of kids coming out to bat. You know, I coach at a school in Essex, and they don't even bother taking a guard. And wherever you stand, obviously, you're going to expose your stumps or go too far across. So whatever it is, whether it be leg stump, middle and leg, take a guard, make a mark on that guard, so that's about middle stump, and then put your feet. I always like feet because feet, that is a given, that is a static, it doesn't really move. You're in line, put your feet on that line. Now, if you find yourself getting out LBW a lot, you might want to change your guard and be a little bit more leg side of the ball, maybe take a leg stump guard. If from a leg stump guard you find you can't reach outside off stump, like some kids can't, they feel they're too far away from the ball, you might want to go across to middle and off. But the first thing to do is to take a guard, and I would put your feet on it, your toes go on that line, just this side of that line, because if you put your bat there and you forget sometimes and you end up here, you get under pressure, and then you're exposing your stumps or you're too far across.
That's an interesting point, actually. When I used to coach kids, one thing we used to say is draw that line, as Nasser said, and then just say to yourself, toe on the line every time, because I can put my bat on that line, but actually my feet are a long way away from it. But if I always put my toes on the line, I'm always in the same position in relation to where the stumps are. So I could stand there, my bat's on the line, and look, my bat doesn't move, but my feet at the crease do. First,
you don't need to be like Trot, though. You don't need to be making a line like that.
It can be
just a little quick line like that.
But it's quite simply, if you've never asked an umpire for a guard, if you want middle stump, please, umpire. And then he'll give you where you've got to move your bat, and then just draw your line. So toe on the line every time. You stood in the right place. How should you stand? What's the stance?
Well, there's so many different players have done it differently. You know, Shiv Chanderpaul is facing square leg. Peter Willey used to stand like that, facing square leg. They say cricket is a sideways on position, and I'd like to stay with that as much as possible. You overdo that a little bit. You look at Malinga, etc. It is not always a sideways on position. I reckon if you can stay sideways on, but the most important thing, in fact, the most important thing of batting is your head and your eyes. This is your computer. If this is moving around or is at a slight angle, then your computer, especially with my dodgy eyes, if your eyes are like that, then you're getting duff information. So try and get your eyes level. Now, if you're a very tall batsman like Kevin Peterson or a very tall young lad at home, then I do believe you do have to get a little bit wider with your stance and crouch a little bit so that you can get your eyes level like that and your head's not falling over if you're a tall player. And that's why generally, historically, the great players have been slightly shorter. You're talking about Tendulkar, talking about Ponting, you're talking about Lara, you're talking about Bradman, because they're at the perfect height to have their eyes level.
You say adjusting your stance, it should be quite a dynamic stance so you can move quickly. So where should your weight be? Flat on your feet or on the balls of your feet? How did you do it?
I would always say on your toes like a boxer so that you can move forward and back quickly, etc. You want to be on your toes. I mean, I did a third man piece the other day on young Compton who was a little bit on his heels there, and it's very difficult to move on your heels because you have to get back on your toes from that position. What you don't want to be is too wide. If you get too wide like that, it's very difficult to move again. The movement you make is very difficult to move again. And conversely, you don't want to be too close together. Probably the closest was Michael Vaughan, actually. Michael used to stand very close together. But if you're too close, then your balance is not right. Your balance, you're almost going to fall over too easily. So just comfortable like that. But again, not one rule fits everyone. Peterson, way. Bairstow, way open like that. I would say just sort of shoulder width apart.
Just stand in that position, because one test you can do is if you're on that position, if I just push Nas, he's pretty balanced. If I can come round behind him, I can push him that way.
But if your toes are close together,
now I do that, he's got nothing.
Timber, like Lloyd when he got hit in the private parts at Perth.
Right, so we're stood in the right place, nicely balanced, on our toes, ready to move. How do you hold the bat?
Now we get so many different ways. I mean, the most important thing is that when the bat comes down, you're giving the full face of the bat to the ball, right? So what you don't want it to be either coming down closed or open.
Which you know about.
Which I know all about open. And the funny thing is that until I played my first test match and saw myself on telly, I never knew I had an open bat face. You know, Boycott used to shout at me across the hotel lobby, he's saying you won't get a run with an open bat face like that. But it is just the way that I naturally picked up a bat, was like that. And my boy now, who plays the game a little bit, naturally picks up his bat like that, closed bat face. Graham Smith, one of the great players of all time, picks up his bat, closed bat face. But what he does is when it comes down, full face of the bat. And it's very difficult to change. I tell you, I mean, the drills you have to do, the drills I try to do to get from there to be square as opposed to like that, is people think the amount of nets I did, the amount of nets everyone does, to change your grip is really difficult. What actually some players now do, the modern players, they've done it over the years actually, Thorpe used to do it a lot. They used to roll the grip up and put little bits of tape here, lots of tape in here, white tape, whatever tape you want, and then so that their hand would feel comfortable so they couldn't grip it too much if it was a closed bat face. I mean, you go back to, who was it, John Wright, the Kiwi, John Wright. At one stage he was so preoccupied with his grip that when he got a good grip, didn't he end up gluing his glove
to the glove?
It was such a good position, he ended up gluing his glove to the bat so that it would fit in perfectly, so that his grip was perfect, until his glove got a bit ropey.
One little tip, again, going back when I coached, if you put the bat flat on the thing with the face on the floor, I was left-handed, so you just pick it up as if you're going to try and like squash a tomato when you bring it down. So walk up to the bat, nice grip, firmish grip, and then you're pretty much in the right spot. But again, as Nasser said, the most important thing, the bat face comes down straight.
Yeah, but under pressure, you know, I've seen young lads that when they get out in the net, they're fine, they do all the drills, and we do the drills. There'll be drills, the modern drill, where you have cones down, and you hit with one arm like that, so it's coming down just off a cone, you'll hit, and then you'll go two arms. And I've been around Michael Atherton's house, and young Joshua Atherton, what he's got is a sock and a string coming down from a tree, and all young Josh does all day is hit a ball like that. You don't need fielders, you don't need your sister running and going getting the ball or whatever. You just stand there hitting this ball and it comes back at you, and if you do play across the line, you will miss that ball. But when they get under pressure in the middle, first game ever, whatever slightly dodgy grip they have, under pressure it will come back. Very difficult to change your grip.
Now you've got to move your feet to the ball to play the shot. So if I was to pop a ball down there, that's a nice long half volley for you. Nasser?
Yeah, I think a little bit too much is made out of foot movement. Obviously you need to move your feet, and you look at someone like Matty Hayden or Ricky Ponting, who have big forward strides. Australian cricketers generally are going at the ball a lot. I would say more balance is more important. Balance at the crease, so that when you do go forward, I played with Marcus Trescothick, who didn't move his feet a lot, but where he was very good was that his balance was always going forward. What you don't want to be is driving a ball like that, even if you have a big foot movement where your balance is back. If the camera could just come around here slightly, I mean, Bumble's very big on this. When you see Bumble, when someone gets caught in that area, Bumble will always talk about, as a coach, he used to coach us badly, he always used to, batsmen who lean back like this, the ball will have to go up in the air. As opposed to bending your front knee, getting your head closer to the ball. So your front knee's bent, it doesn't have to be massive, but as long as you're in that position, closer to the ball. Obviously, Curtly Ambrose is running in, you're not going to be in that position, but you want to be a bit further forward and leaning into it.
Again, another one, your head leads, particularly, so not the short ball from Curtly Ambrose. If I'm going towards that ball, if I send my head in the direction of the ball, my foot is going to follow. If my head stays or goes that way, it's come away from the ball. So your head and your weight that Nasser's talking about, head leads towards the line of the ball.
Head is the most important thing, position of your head.
Well, let's show you a little drill. We're going to throw some balls at Nasser, and he's just going to show this drill as to how to stay in control with your top hand and keep that bat face straight. So if I just drop down onto one knee, I'm going to try and get this right, I'm going to underarm it to Nasser. So you're just completely in control with your top hand, and that's all you're focusing on, keeping the bat face straight, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit of a cliche that it is a top-handed game. I've seen some great players who hold the bottom hand very strongly, but sometimes when you lose your shape and you start hitting with your bottom hand, this is what happens to the bat. The bat comes across at the angle. So what you want is like rocking, you know, they say rock the cradle, rock the baby. You want everything working together and just use your top hand. So you often see the England players using the drill of just hitting one-handed and using this front elbow, hitting through. I didn't particularly like that because you never batted with one hand. I always like to practice how the match is. You always have two hands, but obviously any kind of throwdown where you get your bat coming through straight, to get the bat face straight is very important.
How important is playing late, so the ball close to your body?
Well, I mean, we touched on this after Lords, really, and some of the Kiwi and England batsmen playing away from body. Even more important as a young lad, because you play on slightly uncovered pitches, damp pitches, not great pitches, and the ball sticks in the surface a bit. So if you are playing away from your body up there like that, you often get caught short cover. If you go and watch any schoolboy field, they always have a short extra cover, short mid-wicket, because often batsmen on dodgy pitches poke it up in the air. So even just as important is to try and, again, boycott. Gooch used to drill it into us, see the ball early, play the ball late. Not the other way round. See it early out of the hand, play it late, right underneath you. Even if you're a schoolboy, make the ball drop here. I once watched Tendulkar in a net at Lords, and all that net for 40 minutes, he pulled these nets across like that, pulled them all the way across, like that, and he got the coach or whatever to throw in balls, and he would defend, and if the ball rolled into the net, he wasn't happy, because that meant he was going at the ball. And every time he blocked it and it landed by his feet, he knew he was playing late.
Is that the same for the back foot shots?
Yeah, any shot that if you can get back and play late, play it right underneath you. Again, you know, schoolboy cricket, you'll come in and it'll just stick in the pitch, and if any kind of forward movement, you chip it up in the air. Picking up length is very important. A lot of guys, a lot of young lads are drilled on bowling machines nowadays. And all they do on a bowling machine, mum, dad, everyone, coaches set it on this 70-mile-an-hour drive, and they all come in, boom, drive, and you get outside, and if you could teach a young lad to get back and pull the ball, that's where they get a lot of their shots. Back of a length, back, pull. But yet they still go forward to back of a length balls. They haven't trained the brain to pick up length.
Okay, well, you've shown us how you've come forward. What is the movement to go back? Back and across?
A lot of people I played with, actually, a lot of the best back foot players pounce from the front foot. If you've ever seen Ricky Ponting pull a ball, Ricky Ponting doesn't pull from this position. Ricky Ponting is there, pull. The best cutter I ever played with, Robin Smith, didn't cut from this position. Robin Smith went forward and cut, because it's this to pounce off, like a forward press to pounce off, forward, back.
That's your boxing feet you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, quick on your feet, so you're forward, back, picking up length. But these boys have trained their brain for years and years to pick up length. And the drill now that I like with coaches is when they stand in front of a net, and just even the England boys, you watch Owen Morgan before a one-day game, he'll have Flower or now Giles or whoever hurling in balls, and he'll just stand there going boom, 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 hundreds of balls. And I think that's more important than anything, hitting hundreds and hundreds of balls. If I could give any tip to any youngster or any coach, it is not about technique. It's not about all this stuff we talked about. It is about the volume of balls you hit and training the brain to pick up length, and just hitting, bowling, catching a cricket ball will make you better.
Okay, let's show you this drill that Nasser was talking about. Quick, repetitive hitting balls. Okay?
Yep. Don't get better than that. Look at that. Still got it. Plink. Get Mark Gray Nichols back.
Brilliant, hasn't lost it yet. So that's just hitting balls repeatedly all the time. You keep coming back to this though, the ball. We're talking about batting. Surely the best bit of advice to anybody, whether they've played 150 tests or they're just starting in the game as a youngster, watch the ball. Don't think about your feet, your technique, watch the ball, surely.
Yeah, listen, the England boys, I know we're going up to the top level again here, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they are all about technique. Thursday morning, if you go in on Jonathan's trot mouth, just as Southey gets there, all Trott is saying to himself, watch the ball, watch the ball. Graham Gooch, all he ever did, his last ever thought was not about hands and balance and feet and grip and stance. Watch the ball, watch the ball, watch the ball. That's all you do.
Simple.
Simple.